Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another Breakfast with Blaha. And today I'm having Greek yogurt, almond butter, frozen blueberries. And let's talk a little bit about calories. All right, this is something that I get asked a lot in the comments, and I'm going to give you guys the same advice I give clients of mine when we discuss nutrition. Now, I don't actually discuss nutrition with all my clients. And I think that throws some people off. They're like, well, aren't you a personal trainer? No, I'm a strength coach. We only have nutrition intervention when it's necessary. I have clients who've never asked me a single thing about their diet. Perfect example, Mikey, who you guys saw all the vlogs with. Mike and I never discussed bulking, cutting. I just know that he was going to slow bulk pretty much the whole year that I was coaching him. He's taking a short break. He might be back actually by the time this video's up. We never discussed it. It wasn't necessary. He already knew how he wanted to eat and what he was going to do, and he continued to get stronger. So I don't necessarily discuss it with all of my clients. Some clients, we need a lot of nutrition intervention. So the topic comes up of how big of a surplus and a deficit should you eat? And I don't think that's the question we should be asking, and here's why. You don't know what that number is. What I recommend is people adjust their daily intake based upon what the scale does throughout the week. So let me explain. When I say you do not know how big of a deficit and surplus you're eating, the margin of error on calorie tracking is larger than some of these numbers that people kick out. Number one, our margin of error is about 5 and up to 10% depending upon the food types. Now, foods like this that I'm doing, to where I have a sealed container of yogurt, I know there's 800 calories in it no matter what. If I eat that every day, or if I cut it in half and eat it every 2 days, I'm averaging 400 calories a day from it. That one's easy. All right? Things like nuts that we can just weigh on a scale that do not change at all based on hydration status, pretty easy. Anything else that's packaged, if you're trying to weigh uncooked oats, your uncooked rice, right, any of these dry goods, you're going to be up to 10% off either direction. Cooking your meat's the same way. Technically, you should weigh it raw, but even then, it can lose 5% of its moisture over what you think it is. It could have 5% more calories than you think it does. Right? Particularly fattier cuts, it can get even higher. So you'd assume even if you're off by 5%, you have a 5% margin. So that means if you tracked out 3,000 calories, how many did you really eat 3,000? Or did you eat 2,850? Did you eat 3,150? You don't actually know that. So you see the problem here? That's a 300 calorie undulating wave on your food calculations. You're just getting a real close approximation. Getting a close approximation. Now that'll stabilize if you're eating really similar foods. If you use the same container in the same conditions, because the humidity doesn't change where you live, of say dry rice, and that's 50% of your calories every day, that will start to normalize on your curve. But you don't know exactly how many calories you're eating. So when someone says, can I do a 250 calorie surplus? Because what are they basing that on? How much weight they want to gain. If in theory, if you eat a 500 calorie surplus every day, you'll gain about a pound a week, hypothetically. You also don't know what your TDE is. This is the other reason these tracking devices don't work. Don't try to do that stupid stuff and to calculate how many calories you think you burned due to your whatever Apple Watch or whatever app you're using. It's going to be way off. What are we left with? We're left with changes in scale weight. As your calories burned could easily be 500 or 600 different day to day. All we can track is what is our rough average calories versus what did the scale do. Now, keeping in mind that scale is going to fluctuate a little too based upon water. What we are shooting for is a general trend. So if your goal is I want to gain 1 pound per month, you're going to need to track your weight over a week and track your calories and just look at it. And if you look at it and go, you know what? I gained weight slightly faster than I wanted to, you would cut 100 calories out. And you're going to have weeks when you're bulking or cutting to where you end up being at maintenance. And that's okay. It doesn't affect the bulk or the cut in the long term. Right? It doesn't affect it in the long term. We're looking at the general trend. And as long as every month you're hitting your rough target, you know where you are. But what you would do is you would look at it and say, well, I averaged about 3,300 calories per day this month. I wanted to gain 1 pound a month. I gained 1.5. Maybe I should eat about 3,200 calories for this next month, and then watch what it does. And if the weight stops going up, you would add that 100 back in. Okay? And this is assuming we're trying to gain or lose weight relatively slowly. Same thing on fat loss on the scale. You're going to see a massive loss in body weight the first week on a cut, by the way. If you go into a true deficit, particularly if you went from a bulk to a cut, which we should be doing, transition periods are stupid. They only exist because make it easier to track, because your weight normalized. But you're losing progress. You adjust your calories based upon what the scale is doing. Are you losing weight fast enough? But are you losing strength too quickly? Are you looking at it and going, well, my bench rep work went down by 10 pounds. Maybe I'm cutting too fast. Okay. Maybe I'm cutting too fast. Maybe I need to add a couple hundred calories back in every day. Because people will say, well, should I be at a 500 deficit to lose a pound a week? Well, in theory, but you don't know what that 500 is. You can't calculate it that way because your maintenance is changing every week. That's a good starting point. But what you have to do to follow through is to track what your average weight is through the week, how many rough calories you ate, and make adjustments. You might need to add or subtract 100 to 200 calories based upon what happened the previous week. And if I get a skinny guy who really needs to bulk, who needs to gain 2 or more pounds a week, and yes, I have clients right now who need to gain a lot. Well, I don't mean that much a week. That's what they need to gain a month. I have clients who have told you need to be gaining 3 pounds per month. That is how skinny you are. If they have 3 or 4 days where the scale doesn't move or it goes down slightly, they need to add calories immediately. They don't even wait week to week. Because I've had one to do that. Well, I've been doing this and I'm down half a pound as of the last 2 days. I was going to wait the rest of the week to see what the average does. In that case, no, because that person desperately needs to gain weight. Them not gaining weight is detrimental to their gains. But if they were doing I'm supposed to be eating a 250 surplus or 300 surplus at whatever they think that they're eating, they would be just fine, right? Because that's what they've already calculated. And the reality is they actually were in a deficit for a couple of days. Right? And you will lose weight. If you're bulking and you go into a small deficit for 1 day, you'll see a dip in the scale usually because you're losing your bulk water. And you'll also gain several pounds when you're bulking. That starts dropping back off. That person's overall physical activity changed. Their NEAT changed, their non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So I don't recommend that you say, I think this is what my surplus and deficit is. No, you just need to keep the scale moving. And it's going to be a moving number. What you need to remember is that your TDEE, your total daily energy intake, is going to be an undulating wave. You're just trying to intercept that with an upward trend. So you don't need to go, I'm eating a surplus of 250 or a deficit of 500. You just need to adjust weekly intakes based on what the scale is doing. That's it, to continue the trend. And you'll usually make small changes of 100 to 200 calories a day. And even then, people say, wasn't that going to be inaccurate, the margin of error? Yeah, but it will create the upward or downward trend in the wave that you want. And that's what we're looking for. So what I recommend is don't think in terms of a hard surplus or deficit. You think of a dynamic number that you're hitting based upon what the scale has done the last few days of you're just adjusting your number continually. And that's the easy way to do it. And it's the foolproof way to do it. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.